everybody. This is Sling County Hardliners coming at you again. I know we've been out a little bit, but we're back, and we got a subject tonight that's kind of near and dear to my heart. One of my major things I keep up with, and I think would be one of the better things to happen to this nation to secure what we have, what Trump has done, and also, this is going to be pretty much the only way we can get term limits for federal legislators. So tonight we got a guest who's been here before. He is the Arkansas State Director of Convention of States, which is a national organization trying to get enough states to where we can go into an Article 5 and have another convention of states, have a convention of states. I believe we've never had one, but we've never had anything like that since, I guess, the Second Constitutional Congress. But it's not a Constitutional Congress. It's an Article 5 convention of states. And we're going to let Jamie go into this and explain it. And I know he'd love to, if people are interested, they need to get on board. You can donate. You can become part of it. It's a growing organization. We just had a surge day here in Arkansas at the Little Rock Capitol, the Arkansas State Capitol, a couple of days ago. We had one last year. I was there last year. I was there this year. We had the national president, and I guess one of the founders, Mark Meckler, who's a national figure, who is behind this, and he really is promoting it. He comes and speaks with us, and you can even catch this on, and we'll go into that. You can watch the whole thing if you want on YouTube, and I believe on the Convention of States website. So it's Jamie Franks. He's the Arkansas State Director. He's lives up in Forrest City, Arkansas, but he's the man that kind of organizes what's going on in this state, which is a pretty big job since it's a national organization. So, Jamie, how's it going tonight?
Pretty good. How about you?
Pretty good. He got a little internet. We're going to bear with it. Little internet problem, but I think it'll all work out. Tell us a little bit about how you came about getting in this organization, and kind of we'll start out with a general synopsis of what Article 5 is, which if people don't know, which is from, I don't remember what year. I can't tell you what year you built. I'm thinking 1787 or something. It was in the is it the Bill of Rights where it was out of?
Well,
It's in the Constitution.
Yeah, I tell you how it came about in the Constitution. It was the next to last day of the Constitutional Convention, and George Mason, that he's considered the father of Article 5, stood up, made a comment. We've made a mistake. I'm just giving to it in layman's term. I'm not going to go exact wording here, but he said, we've made a mistake. We've given Congress the power to amend the Constitution, but not the people through the states. And he said, are we naive to believe that a tyrannical government will ever restrain itself? And there, if you go to the notes of the Constitutional Convention, there's a phrase there that says "nin-com," which means no debate. Nobody there disagreed with what he said, and so that's significant right there, because they realized that government that gets too big will become tyrannical, and that's what Article 5 is all about. We see in Washington D.C. every day how tyrannical our federal government has become. And so what we're trying to do by calling in the Article 5 convention is these three things. Is one, to propose term limits. I think everybody that you talk to thinks that most of the people in Congress that's been up there 30, 40 years, they need to go. Number two is to have a balanced budget. I mean, we see every time we turn Congress is passing this to fund this and fund that, money that we don't have. And most people don't know this, that states are federally mandated by Congress to have balanced budgets.
Right.
But They have to have, but they can just spend. And now I think we're almost at $40 trillion in debt, and Congress just keeps spending money like there's no tomorrow. I mean, what we're basically is for them to use general accounting principles. You can't spend more than you take in. I mean, people that live normal lives, they can't spend more than they take in, or what happens? They're going to go bankrupt. And
Yeah, that's the
thirdly,
truth.
it's to reduce. And thirdly, is to reduce the scope and jurisdiction of the federal government. You know, a lot of the things that the government has their nose in, when they created the Constitution, it was supposed to be decided by the states. A lot of these alphabet agencies, they never wanted that. I mean, it's supposed to be controlled by the states, and that's what. Yeah, I mean, that's something I think happened under the one right before Reagan, Jimmy Carter. I think he's the one that established the Department of Education.
Department of Education, and it sure didn't help it any, because that's something that the federal government doesn't need to jack with state education.
Well, and we see with our children how schools are trying to, you know, with a lot of the policies they're trying to make now, where they don't have to notify parents to transition, just garbage like that the government has got too many hands in too many different areas of life, and that's something the Article 5 can help with.
Right. Yep. And Arkansas didn't have. I was heavily involved in 1992 in the when Arkansas became got term limits, because there was no term limits in any offices in Arkansas beforehand. There still isn't on the county level and city levels for the most part. But as far as your constitutional officers and your legislators, senators, House representatives, they're all have term limits now.
I mean,
it watered it down in 2016 and tricked everybody, watered it down.
So
still,
but
that's what
some
they
of
need.
them term limited, and then they take a break, then they go again. That's I think they ought to have a set amount of years, and that's it. They're finished. They're done.
When that happened in '92, it began with we were including the senator and representatives. But that got thrown out because if that was constitutionally not, we couldn't do it. Plus, they had the argument, well, if Arkansas does it and they're the only state that has term limits and the rest of the states don't, that could be bad. Well, yeah, that could be bad, because you would have all these. If everybody doesn't do it, it doesn't solve the problem, because you got your Nancy Pelosi's, your Chuck Schumer's, your Grassley's, your McConnell's, and I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, they've been there too dang long. I mean, and
the good thing about calling the Article 5 convention, each resolution in each state has to match word for word. It can't be there. It can't say this in one state. It can't say the one that it has to be worded exactly the same, or it don't count.
Explain a little bit about, a lot of people fear they get it mixed up with the Electoral College, which it is not. Electoral College, I'm just going to say, how it's a proportion vote, or it's a proportion in elections, to where, California, they got more population, they get more votes. Well, a lot of people think that I've talked to, they'll think, oh, well, California and New York and Pennsylvania, they'll decide, and people like Arkansas and West Virginia, they'll just have to go along. But explain how that's not true, because each state is equal in their vote.
Yeah, well, like if we get to the 34 state minimum to call a convention of states, all 50 states get to participate, not just the 34 that decided we want to call a convention of states. We call the convention, we discussed the things that we proposed. And the good thing about the resolution, they have to stay within what it was called for. We can't go into something else that didn't fall under the resolution. If it does, then they're out of order, and it would go.
Like there'll be an agenda.
Go before the courts and be thrown out.
There will be an agenda.
Yeah, it has to go by the agenda of the convention. Each state only gets one vote. It don't matter how many commissioners they send from each resolution. Not each commissioner gets a vote. It's a consensus of all the ones that's there. Each state gets one vote, and then those things that are proposed go back to each state to be ratified, just like any other amendment. It goes to be ratified.
And if and they don't have to ratify it. These are suggestions for everybody on the same course, right?
And that's where a lot of people get confused, because they're going to say, if we call it, it's going to be a runaway convention. Well, first of all, we're not there to make amendments. We're there to propose amendments. That just because we propose them don't necessarily mean that they're going to become law. It has to go back to each state to be ratified. Here's the good part. In order to become part of our U.S. Constitution, 38 states have to ratify it before it becomes law. So that's it. Right now it's 2/3 to call it, but in order for ratification to happen, it has to be 3/4 of the states have to agree for it to become part of the U.S. Constitution. That's a very high bar that we have to meet to get it to be ratified to become part of the Constitution.
I mean, it would be a huge historical event, since it's never happened, correct? In the history of this nation, it's never happened.
Never happened.
And it probably should have happened several times, but it hasn't.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
There's been many attempts to try to call, other than what we are doing is convention of states. But, it's one thing that people don't realize too far is about the runaway convention. A lot of people say, well, they're going to get up there and take away our gun rights.
Yeah.
If you read our resolution, which is SJR3, is the resolution number. If you specifically read the whole resolution, it specifically says in there, if we try to mess with the Bill of Rights, it nullifies the resolution. So if somebody gets up there and tries to mess with that and say it gets out of the convention, automatically by law it would be thrown out, because it falls out of the scope of what the resolution says. So it would be nullified automatically.
So you can't fool with those 12 Bill of Rights?
The Bill of Rights. 10. I think the Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.
Yeah, like freedom of press, freedom to bear arms.
I think you're going back to what Mark said. Originally it was 12 amendments, but only 10 of them got right.
That's right. 2 of them. Well, 2 of them one's still out to be ratified, right? I mean, there's some that are still sitting there on the state legislators' desks, right? Basically.
Yeah. Yes, that's it.
Those are.
Yeah, we kind of got a little bit of a history lesson from Mark the other
That's
day.
what I liked. I like that.
He spoke some things I've never. And Mark is very wise. I love Mark. I talk to Mark as much as I can. Me and him chit chat throughout the year, text message, call sometimes, and Mark loves doing this kind of stuff, and he's always very uplifting. He
very well.
He just knows how to get people. Yes. Well, I mean, if you stop, he is one of the co-founders of the Tea Party. I mean, he helped start the Tea Party movement. Mm-hmm. He knows this stuff.
And I just think it's an important thing for us to get back to our roots. We have wandered so far away. We've just wandered. We're where we're supposed to. We don't have the foundation that we were meant to still have. And everybody, you get the people will say, well, all that was written down. That's out of date. No, it's not out of date. It's not out of date. Maybe it needs to be tweaked to today's standards, but it is not out of date.
Well, our one of the things that we're trying to do at Convention of States is to get it back to its original intent of what the Constitution was. If you went now and ordered an official copy of the Constitution now, state government, you would get a book back that's about 4 or 5 inches thick. Have you ever seen those little pocket constitutions that a lot of people carry around in their pockets and stuff that basically just have the founding documents in it?
Yeah.
But now, if you ordered that from the federal government, you would get a big encyclopedia book that has all the court decisions, all this stuff that are just in their people. We can just say this: when the Supreme Court makes a decision, it's just their interpretation of what the Constitution says.
Right.
We want to get it back to the original intent of what the Constitution meant. We don't need all this government.
It dilutes the Constitution.
Yes.
And
it does.
Sooner or later, you got to regroup. And to me, that's a good way to explain COS, Convention of States, Article 5, a regrouping. It's not a changing necessarily; it's a regrouping. Correct? Or am I correct?
It's we like to say it's the revolution without the bullet.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where we can't maintain our country in the direction that it's going.
No.
And I think our founders had wisdom beyond their years to put a safeguard in the Constitution to protect the Constitution. That's the best way I know how to explain it.
Yeah. And, speaking of term limits, I also hear people say this, well, if they'd wanted term limits, they'd put that at the beginning. Well, that's not true, because when these guys wrote when these founding fathers, they weren't meant, and I don't think they really had any intention to make a career out of being a federal politician. They were to go and serve and come home. And that's not the attitude anymore. It's how much.
Another point on that, I like to make this point on this, because back then they weren't living as long as we were. We've had so many advances in the medical field that these people are living twice the age as these people were living. So they weren't expecting people to do it this long. They were literally expecting to, by the time you get to 50, be on your deathbed, pretty much. People are living into their 70s and 80s now.
You take Washington.
You look at something too when. They term limited themselves.
Exactly.
Too. Like George Washington. You look at George Washington. He could have probably been president 3 or 4 times, but he chose to limit himself to 2. And most presidents did that. All the presidents did that until FDR.
He really didn't.
I think he got elected 4 times.
He had no passion to be president. He just was the guy that was unanimously wanted. He was commander-in-chief. He had been commander-in-chief. He had led us through the revolution. He was a proven leader of the early foundation of the country. And I think he just was the natural person to step in. I think he just so go home and mess with the cows. But he was doing his duty. Well, nowadays they say they do their duty, but no, they're cleaning up's what they're doing, because they're all making, they go in middle class and they come out a multimillionaire. That's a problem. That's another problem. But and it just wasn't meant to be what it's become.
Well, you look at something where they make $180,000 a year.
Not a crazy amount of money, but
Well, look at Nancy Pelosi making $180,000 a year. I think Speaker might make a little bit more, but she been in Congress 38 years, something like it, 30-something years, and now she's worth $250 million. Those numbers don't add up.
How about the gal up there in Minnesota, Iliad, the Muslim, the Somalian? What I can't remember her name right now.
Iman Omar, or whatever her name is.
Okay, they say she went into office in debt. Her and AOC, they all went into office in debt, and they're multimillionaires now. So
yeah, how is that so? How is that possible?
Right.
And how is it possible that Nancy Pelosi, that every stock trade that she makes,
that's right.
No. I mean, common sense tells you that it's insider trading. But getting back to a moment about the framers of the Constitution, most of them were just your average, everyday Joe like me and you. That that they didn't make being a legislator or of course the president's a full-time job, but as far as going to be a legislator, they stay in Washington D.C. all year round. No. They only went to Washington D.C. when some business needed to be handled, but now they didn't intend for that to become a full-time occupation like it is now.
Like
and they, one thing that I say to people, and some of them get mad when I say it, but I don't really care. It's the truth. They always scream education. We need more education. Well, how many people up there have Ivy League education in Congress, and we're in $40 trillion in debt? If that's what education gets, I don't need to be educated. I mean, that's the truth. Because if that's what education gets you is this mess, then sad. That's the only thing I can say. We're in a sad way.
Yeah, and they, of course, they're getting away. There was once upon a time, if you didn't have a college degree, you could forget being elected. Not that people would, you just wouldn't. But now they're getting away from that. They're starting to kind of look at the person rather than the.
You go back to George Washington didn't have a college degree.
No.
A lot of the founding fathers didn't have college
education. Lincoln didn't even go to school. He didn't even go to public school.
He passed the bar. He just read a bunch of books and was able to pass the bar, but he never went to law school. But yet, we need to get back to having common. We need.
They kind of lost your sound there. You there?
No. I can hear you.
Years.
I can hear you.
I can't hear anybody now.
Let me try something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me now? Okay. I just turned off my video. If that's
fine.
Called,
that's fine.
Everybody
knows what you look like now.
What I was saying is, we need a lot more common sense in Congress than we do book sense. And that's the truth.
Yeah, that's true. And, we just got to get away and our state's bad about what I'm going to say. We need to get away from this buddy system. In other words, running for office is a club. In other words, you're in the club, you're not in the club. If you're not in the club, you get in the club.
You don't like the good old boy system.
Good old boy system has got figure out some way.
Look what happened, especially with y'all. They disbanded the Saline County Republican Committee.
Right.
And when they had the state convention and the people's will was heard, they basically voided that, jacked up the rates where you can apply to become a governor. So they did that so the good old boys could stay in there and the common everyday man couldn't run in office.
And
I mean, that's not right.
Unfortunately, I'll tell you right now, I didn't make it any secret. I was backing Brian Norris. We backed him on this show. We had him on here twice, 2 or 3 times, and he would have been great, a great Secretary of State. But you know what? It just, you get these guys in here, and you got the governor backing them. You got all the constitutional officers backing them, and it's just,
I could give one even better than that, Keith. Look, the governor endorsed to run against Ron Caldwell.
Mm-hmm.
But, Trey Bowdirt, because Ron Caldwell stood against her $1 billion playpen she's trying to build, stood against him and endorsed a man that was in business with a pedophile. I mean, what kind of governor does that? And I'll probably get a lot of hate for saying that, but that's the truth.
No, that's true. That was a bad deal, And she didn't win all of her people she pushed, but she got a lot of them. And we had Kim Hammer, who's a state rep. He's been in government forever. He's a professional politician. I don't care if he likes it saying that or not. It's true.
I mean, he got term. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was being term limited out, right? He couldn't run again.
Yes. He had to go.
So he's trying to stay in office somehow or another.
Well, he's trying to get in the merry-go-round up there. I caught the merry-go-round. And that's what old Jester, he's a young man, 28, 29, 30 years old. And he just won land commissioner. Well, he was Secretary of State. And what the heck they got to do with each other, I have no idea, nothing. So what he's going to do, you wait and watch. He's going to be, I counted it up. They have 8-year term limits, 2 terms, which is 8 years, which I don't have a problem with that. But what they're going to do is they're going to turn around. You can be in all 7 constitutional offices and make a career of it. That's about 40 years of service if you were to just hit each one and serve your 8 years. As governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, auditor, treasurer.
And that's basically what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And they do that crap.
Well,
and anybody tries to intervene, they'll eat them up. They'll eat them up.
Well, look what the governor tried to do when Gary Stubblefield died. Tried to push the election off for a whole year.
Oh, yeah.
So the people wouldn't be represented during this session because she wanted to try to push her prison through. And because Gary Stubblefield was the biggest person that was against it, she didn't want the people to be represented during that session of our legislature. And of course, the courts, put her back in her place. That's the kind of stuff that Convention of States is here to, this is more on a federal level, but we also teach people how to get involved and become self-governing citizen activists. We not only are trying that, but we teach you how to get involved in the local level, the county level, the state level, and the national level. We cover all those bases there.
Does it matter?
And, we teach them how to do those things.
Yeah, like you said,
because it does matter.
Like you said, if they had a convention of states, it has to go back to the states to be ratified. Well, at that point in time, you're talking about dealing with the state legislatures and the state senates again to get it ratified into law. So, would it be a total solution? Probably not, but it would be a far jump in the right direction.
Well, I mean, what if just say you get to the convention and we pass the 3 things that we have, I believe a lot of things will straighten up just by getting term limits passed through.
Absolutely.
Getting that closure out right now would help tremendously.
You got
that.
Go ahead.
But what people need to remember is this. Say we get up there and we get what we constitutionally amend, the Constitution by going through the convention. Congress still has the power to amend the Constitution too, through the same process of Article 5.
Yeah.
So it easily could be taken back to the same way that it was And that's why we want to grow. You know, our motto in Convention of State is have the largest grassroots army of self-governing citizen activists. We got, in order to maintain this republic, we've got to be on guard from now on. We can't just let it go
Right.
anymore.
I tell you what, if you were to have the Article 5 Convention of States and they voted to give term limits, whatever they may be, to the legislative branch, let me put it that way, which is Senate and House, because your federal, president already has them. So, but if you were to do that and they were to turn around and change it back, I don't think people would like that too much. Do you?
Probably not. Not at all.
I mean, if you want to be blatant about screw the people, if you want to be blatant about saying screw what the people think, that's a good way to do it.
Well, I mean, you just look at just government and just any fashion. Government is really not for the people. You stop and think about it. Look at Aaron Spencer, you know, and a man where government failed him and his family. You know, this man was trying to molest and rape his daughter, and I think it was twice he got caught with his daughter. Am I not right?
I don't know the details, but I know he did. It was a real deal. It wasn't a theory.
You know, instead of this man being, well, this man is a lifelong sex offender. Instead of him being celebrated for defending his family, he's being vilified and prosecuted for protecting his family. You know, and to me, you know, our constitutional office could step up and say, no, this is not going to happen. It's not Tim Griffin over all prosecutors in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah. Well, they don't like to do anything.
Could he not step in and say, no, this is not?
I believe so. Yeah.
Hey, I gotta make a statement real quick. So, was any of this proved real quick? This is a legal sort of thing.
What as far as
the accusation
like
against this man?
Spencer.
I'm just gonna say if we don't have any proof of that, we'll say allegedly. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to get the podcast taken off because of that.
Well, I mean, the man was found in the car with his daughter. I mean, how much more proof do you need?
I'm just saying, as a legal note,
so,
say allegedly.
I'm just saying, we'll say allegedly. That's fine. I don't have a.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to keep the podcast.
They shut us down all the time for stuff.
I agree.
They shut us down for less, but let's not.
Yeah, a lot less.
Not be petty.
I got on a tirade.
I'm just saying. But my thing is this: if me as a father, if I caught a 60-something-year-old man in the truck with my 13, 14-year-old daughter,
no, I totally agree. It's on.
I mean, yeah, the man probably would still be alive.
Right. And I
but
think
my thing of it is, and it would happen when the judge, and the judge had to be removed because she kept breaking the law, that sitting there trampling on this man's right to a fair trial. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, and had to ultimately go to the Supreme Court. That, you know, it's not when all of this could have been easily handled, you know, and that's the point I'm trying to make is government thinks they know better than the people do.
Right. No, misrepresentation of the people is totally, it's not, we're not being represented, you know, and I see that every day. You go, when we're in session right now, you can run down there and sit on the Senate floor or the House floor within our own state, and you see all kinds of garbage where they're just, you know, how you going to vote, you know, lobbyists, you know.
Well, and that's funny because the day that we had the search day, I don't know if you had gotten there or not, but a lobbyist a lobbyist from Tyson come to the door and asking me what was going on in here. That's the kind of attention Convention of States is starting to
You're
get
trying to
with the
shut him
public.
down.
That even I'm sure that's probably what he was wondering about. But that's the kind of people are starting to wake up, and they're starting to realize that Convention of States is becoming a force in this nation, and we're here to stay, and we're not going anywhere. And we're gonna see this thing through.
Well, the big thing's getting the word out. There's still a lot of people, because I go around when I'm talking to people.
Yes.
And I'll mention Convention of States, and some people know about it but don't understand it. Some people have never heard of it. Some people don't have a clue about it. Some people don't have some people don't have a clue about anything going on in this country, and that's a dadgum shame. That's why we're in the shape we're in, because we've been so spoiled. We've lived so well. We're like the Roman Empire. We have it so good that we feel like we don't have to listen. Like everything's going along. I'm still got my phone, my 2 cars, my camper, my color TV, my job. I'm still going out to eat at nice restaurant. So you know what? This ain't my problem. But what they don't understand is this stuff ain't automatic. This stuff can change. We're not that old a country. It can change. You can end up with nothing.
Well, and that's one thing that people may not like about convention state. We were kind of talking about this before the show started, is that when we go to convention, some tough decisions are going to have to be made. And it's probably going to be some unpopular decisions, but our country can't keep on the course that it's in.
Oh.
We can't keep funding things that we no longer can afford.
No.
And I can see that being one of the biggest arguments at the convention is about the budget. There's going to have to be some programs that's going to have to be cut out completely.
I like a lot of things that's happened since Trump's been president, but I don't know if everybody realizes that in 2028, if January 20th, 2029, we have a Democrat step into the office of the presidency, or if we lose the House and the Senate in this year, 427, or both, it's all going back the way it was. It's all going back to the way it was. And we're going to be like overnight in trouble again. We're better right now. And I think everybody puts their guard down because we are better right now. But what they don't understand is it just takes one election for them to get back in power, and they're ready. And if they think they were bad last time, they're going to be venomous and rabid next time.
Well, I mean, it takes one stroke of a pen to change everything that Trump did. When the day one, you saw when Biden took office, he totally undid everything Trump had did in his first term as president. And that's how easily things can change.
Could you imagine?
But like
Gavin
when
Newsom,
we go to the convention.
Could you imagine
Gavin
Newsom being president? Could you imagine what would happen? My goodness. I don't even want to.
It would be a nightmare.
And I'm afraid the next time.
It'd be like waking up and having.
Yes. And it'll be worse than it was last time because they're pissed off right now. They're mad. They're mad. Just like if we lose Congress, he's going to be impeached. You can count on in 27, he's going to be impeached if we lose Congress. He's going to be, and a lot of people think impeached doesn't mean thrown off. He's going to be tried for impeachment again. There's no doubt in my mind, and it's going to be ugly. It's going to be
for sure.
I don't think he'll.
Well, you start going back to the gap.
Causes us not to deal with what we need to be dealing with.
The Gavin. Going back to the Gavin Newsom comment that you had a while ago, that's like if he got elected president, that'd be like waking up from a dream and Freddie sitting there in the president's chair.
I'm there on Pennsylvania.
That's how bad it would be.
Yes.
And
sooner or later,
be nightmare on Pennsylvania Street.
That was kind of my comment at the deal the other day. When I say, do we have time? I didn't mean that we're going to end, but we're fixing to. If I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we have a JD Vance or something like that, you know. But if it does, here we go again. You know, that's what it's going to be. Here we go again, and it's going to be. You know, we can't keep what they do, what the Democrats do, and even some of the Republicans when they get in office. We can't, like you said, we cannot keep going down this path. We cannot keep going down this path. Something's got to give, and I don't want it to be a bad thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like you stop and think, you know, we're almost $40 trillion in debt. But what about all the unfunded liabilities that Congress has already passed that we don't even probably know about? You know, they put all these things into these bills that has absolutely nothing to do with the bill itself, but they just stuff them in there. I mean, if we actually probably knew the truth about how much in debt that we actually are, we probably all have a heart attack and die.
Well, we probably can't
that's
even
how
get
bad
out
it really is.
We probably can't without. I don't know how. I'm not an economist. I'm not a stock market. Well, I mean, I'm just not an economist to tell this story, but I don't know how we would. I mean, when you're talking about multi-trillions of dollars, it's hard to get out without. It's kind of like filing. You got to file. I mean, it's hard to even. You almost have to start over to get out of it.
Well, you know, I'm a big John Kennedy fan. I love Senator Kennedy, and I love what he said. He said, you know, why are we sending money to countries that hate us? They hate us for free.
Absolutely.
You know, I love that comment. You know, a lot of times we borrow money to send money to other countries. That's stupid.
Absolutely.
Why are we sending money to countries, you know, like to help with distribution of condoms and Sesame Street? That's stupid. And the American people ought to be, excuse my French, be pissed off about it when they hear stuff like that. But, you know, it's just like people are just so numb that they don't even care.
Well, I think if you were to cut out about 3/4 or more, maybe, I don't know, of our foreign aid, that would do a lot. Because we have a tremendous amount of, you know, it's kind of like we're the what am I trying to say? The not donation. We're the churches do it for, you know, we do most of the donating to the world. Somebody's in trouble. They've had an earthquake. Everything's destroyed. I feel sorry for them, but we're the ones that do the dirty work. NATO, we need to get out of NATO. We need to just walk off from NATO. We need to walk off. There's no purpose.
Actually, I think we need to repurpose NATO. I think we need to turn NATO into a mercenary unit. Start taking out funding for it.
You know what? If we're going to rule it, if we're going to pay for it, we need to run it the way we want to run it. And
well, I mean, and Trump has a good point. Why, you know, why aren't these other countries paying their fair? Basically, we're funding NATO. That's what it boils. They know when Trump finally decides to pull all funding for NATO, they're going under. They cannot afford to open without United States funding.
Look, they refused us. When we needed a hand just last month, they refused us. They actually, I don't know if people realize what that means. I don't know if they realize what that means. They refuse to help us when it's our money that they're helping us on.
Like I said, we need to turn them into a mercenary unit, and we need to collect protection money. That's what we need to start doing.
That's basically what they want.
Well, you know,
if we're going to keep it, you know.
And that's why people hate Trump so much, is because he's making America first again. other countries, the priority. He's making America the priority. For so long, other presidents have made all these countries more important than, we're sitting here sending money to other countries to help with their homelessness and their starvation. When we got people in the U.S. that are starving, that are homeless, they can't get help. That's not right.
Well, they all want, the liberal world, I'm going to say world, not just our nation, the world, Europe and all that. They want world order. They want a one world system. Even China, they want a one world system. And they don't want us to have an identity of the United States anymore. There's a lot of people in this country that they can talk all the trash they want about how they love this country and fly the flag and love the veterans and all that crap. But what they want is for us not to be any more of our tradition of being the United States. They might call it the United States.
But that's what the Muslim countries are calling us. We're the great Satan. They think we're what's wrong with the world when we're the ones that's keeping the world from being in chaos.
But what a lot of these, I call them Islam lovers. They're not Muslims. They're Americans. Never even been over there.
They're Islamists.
European Americans, yeah, and the ones that aren't even Muslims. Some of them are atheists, and they're backing the Muslims about what they do, and they don't even understand that Muslims want to the Nation of Islam would just soon exterminate us as Christians. They want the crusade. They want another crusade, but on the other end. And they think, it's like these protesters in college protesting for Palestine. They don't even have a clue. They don't know they have no clue what Palestine is. They've never been there. They don't know anything. And they don't know that they would kill them just as quick as they would kill anybody else.
Well, they're taught to be that way, though. You stop and think about it. They're taught, nowadays they're taught if you love your country and are loyal to the flag, then something's wrong with you. You're scum of the earth.
You're a bigot.
And it shouldn't be like that.
You're a bigot.
Yes. And it should not be like that.
You're a hater. You hate. You're just a white bigoted person.
Well, my thing is, if you hate America so bad, then leave. That's the way I feel about it. If we're that terrible to you, don't come into this country. Leave.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing they need to change, and this would probably have to. I think this could happen in a convention of states. I don't think it's on their agenda, but it has crossed my mind. Is change this anchor baby deal, this our immigration policies. I don't mean stop immigration, even though I think we need to stop it right now for a while because it's so out of control. But I was really highly disappointed when they backed off of the mass deportation. That did upset me. I thought that was us giving in, and I don't think we should have done that. I think that was, they talked him into doing that. And just because these people up there are whining about it, I don't care really. They're illegal. They don't need to be here. We can't afford this.
I seen this on, I don't remember what podcast it was the other day, where they were discussing where they thought it was okay for if you come into, say, Iran illegal, it's okay to face the consequences of that act. They can deport you. They were fine with that. But if somebody comes into the United States illegal, then all these things, and it don't these people have nowadays. I have these laws in place if we're not going to enforce them. I'm in favor of legal immigration. That means you come through the front door, not the back door.
Yes. Does it need to be reformed a little? Probably. But that's not the point. The point is that I get tired of them saying, well, we'll do something about it when they break the law. They broke the damn law when they came across the border. They broke the law at that point in time, and it's still broken. So, I don't know. I don't know about you, but this is my personal opinion. I was very, and okay, yeah, there was a lot of violence coming out of it, but they were causing the violence. There's people that didn't have anything. They were not illegal themselves. They don't have a dog in a hunt. it's not their, it's not really, they don't need to be out there trying to stop ICE, you know, and I was for staying the path because, you know, they kind of cock-a-doodle-dooed when we pulled out of Minneapolis, you know, or pulled back. And, you know, it's kind of gotten swept under the rug now. And I think that's something we need to keep pushing and taking care of while we do have it.
Well, you stop and look at it. When I goes out to do the job, enforce customs enforcement, to remove people from this country that are here illegally, they're beaten, they're spit upon, everything you can think. People sit there and break the law, trying to prevent them from doing their jobs. They are just basically the scum of the earth. That's
it's okay for them to throw darts. It's okay for them to do violence, but it's not okay for these guys to protect themselves. You know, if you don't like what, if you don't want to get shoved around by an ICE guy, you know, like I'm just going to sound cold blooded, like the guy that got shot. Just stop the damn car. Simple as that. Just stop your car. It's simple ribbon, you know. It's kind of like robbing banks. You know, if you don't like the punishment, don't do it. It's easy. That's your choice. You're making a choice to break the law. You're making a choice to hit somebody. You're making a choice to kill somebody. That's your choice. I know good and well. I can take myself, for example. If I was to go start an insurrection at the Capitol, a real one, that day, folks, I'm not doing it. I'm just saying hypothetically. I should have in my mind the day I go there, that may be the day I die. Because, you know, that's what happens. That's what happens when you stick your neck out. You can get it cut off. And people, instead of people going, oh, they dare to hit me when I was doing, yeah, because you're breaking the law.
And they're still surprised when they have to face their consequences.
Yeah, nobody wants to take responsibility for themselves anymore, you know. Adults even. But
man, you have to think about it, about with all these people. Do sometimes cops abuse power? Sure. I'm sure it happens all over the United States.
Yeah, they're humans.
I mean, but at the same, they're human beings, and people and power corrupts people. Let's just be honest about that.
And it's a tough job.
When you're given a lawful, and when you're given a lawful order to stop what you're doing and listen, and but that's being racist because they pull somebody over. I'm sorry, if you broke the law, you broke the law. Just comply and fight it in court. That's what our judicial system is for. But the generation, I think, if they raise enough hell, they break enough stuff, they destroy everything, that there shouldn't be any consequences for that. And that's why they can't stand our president, is because he started to make there be accountability for their actions, and they can't stand it.
See, that's what happened in Minneapolis. To me, and this is my opinion, they kind of won. They kind of won. I mean, they like you said, they raised enough hell, tore enough stuff up. And the way they were treated, the ICE agents, everybody says, oh, they were just running wild, picking on people. If they had really wanted to run wild and really enforce the way they probably should enforce, there'd been a bunch of folks gone, because these people were death. No.
But they control the narrative and call when they're sitting there showing on national TV, them burning stuff down, breaking people's cars, whatever, throwing bricks, frozen water, whatever they're doing, and saying it's a peaceful protest. But like the January 6th thing, when Trump specifically said, go to the Capitol and protest peacefully, that's an insurrection. Well, to me, it's the other way around. It's insurrection when you got stuff like that going on, but yet they want to label different things.
Well, you know, that was kind of a setup deal, I figure. You know, they were being told that was kind of a setup deal, I feel like. Not all of it, but enough of it to make it more than what it
but
came.
But you stop and think about it. The truth is starting to gradually come out from what happened in January
absolutely.
6th. It's
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
truth, little by little, is coming out.
Absolutely.
It's
There's
coming out.
pictures of them in there talking to these police officers. They haven't showed the public all the pictures. When they first go in there, they're like walking around. They're not like, it didn't look like the French Revolution to me. Let's put it that way. And to me, an insurrection, if you're going to have an insurrection in the United States of America with all the weapons we got in this country, if there was I'm not going to label anything an insurrection or rebellion unless there's a lot of arms, because you're not going to have a bunch of people going to the Capitol with baseball bats or nothing that plan on doing an insurrection. That's not the way it would go down.
I think it'll be a little bit more planned also.
I believe it would be a lot more to it than just walking around hollering, you know.
And it goes back to what I said earlier. It takes common sense to see what's going on. Look at election night. We go to, the election with, a few states. Why would they stop counting in the middle of the night? And no election have they stopped counting in the middle of the night. And when they stop counting, the president of the United States is ahead by several 100,000 votes.
Yeah, you wake up.
Yeah, in 2020, and then you wake up the next morning, hear the person running against him is ahead by 15, 20,000 votes. Common sense tells you that's not right. Yeah. There's something wrong there.
Demon in the middle of the night on that deal. And I remember Arizona.
And then the thing that they impeached Trump for in Georgia, now we're finding out what he was saying was the absolute truth.
Right.
With the ballots.
Right. Well, this country's got a lot of work to do, and it ain't over yet. This was mentioned. I'm 67 years old, and I don't know how old you are, James, but Kevin ain't near that old. But
I'm 50.
Okay, you're in between me and Kevin. So, but anyway, are your children grown? You still got children at home?
No, my last one is just moved out a few months ago. So.
Well, Kevin's still got young fellas there, but to me, we do these things for I live a normal life. I think I'll see a lot worse things than I've seen. I think we're still going to be worse before better. And I think that Mark mentioned this the other day, and I really agreed with him, is I think we are in an age of enlightenment, or I think we're in a changing time for this country. I don't know which way it's going to go, but like you said, things got to give one way or the other, and it can't keep going the way it is. So I don't know what's going to happen, in the next 5 years, but I think a lot's going to happen one way or the other. A lot's going to happen. I think we're living in historic times in this country, I believe. And I don't know whether it's good or bad. I'm optimistic it'll be good, but I think, and it's up to the people to get their heads together and get their minds right.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Convention of States is trying to do. We're trying to bring common sense back into the United States, by showing people that you can use the Constitution to fix the Constitution, and it's one thing that we are trying to do to speed the process up. Of course, we're trying to get President Trump to endorse Convention of States, which I think
that would be huge.
There's a lot of that. It would be huge. The thing we have right now, we got Mark Meckler, our COS president, has an open letter to President Trump that we're trying to get 1 million signatures for to send it to the president. And if you would like to add your name to it, it's conventionofstates.com/Trump, and it'll take you can add your name.
I am on there.
And I am too. My whole family's on there.
Kevin, you get
I encourage people to put that
All
on
right.
there, because I mean, I think once he adds his name to it, then we'll see something explode. One thing that Mark talked about the other day too is the reason why a lot of people are against this is because they're afraid of losing power. I mean, they know that if we get in there and we
there we
get
go.
this through, that's gonna take away uh, a lot of power from the good old
Right.
boys, like we were talking about a while ago.
Mhm.
That's where you can sign the petition if you want to add your
So
name
you
to it right
seeing
there. But
you're
if you
seeing
just
what
go
he's got up
convention
there.
of states,
Yeah, that's y'all's. You sign a
yeah.
petition.
Kevin, can you put on there? Yeah, sign petition. But can you put on there /Trump at the end of conventionofstates.com, and that'll show you the /Trump, and it'll take you to that.
Yeah. TI.
There you go.
I know how to spell.
That's where you can go to add your name if you'd like to say you support President Trump and endorsing Convention of States. That's where you can add your name.
Yeah.
I think right now we're over 200,000 people on there, so we're trying to get there. It's been a little slower moving here lately, but we're trying to get the word back out on to get people to add their name to it. So anybody would like to put that, we'd be more than
People
happy
don't
for
need
you
to
to
wait.
do that.
People
Uh,
don't need to wait till things go sour. Seems like when things go sour, that's when everybody wants to start buying guns. They
yep.
want to start signing petitions. They want to start getting involved. And right now, there's a lot of people that think, I don't know how they could, but they think, well, Trump's in office. It's all good. Things are going our way, which is not totally true. They're going better. They're better, but they're not anywhere close to where they need to be. And they don't need to. You don't need to let your guard down. We're bad about letting our guard down, letting them sneak back in, and all of a sudden, bam, you screwed up again. So anyway, I like to see everybody join up on this. You can get involved. You can donate money. Everybody can always use money in these kind of things.
Yes.
It takes money to advertise. It takes money for Mark and everybody else, Jamie, to get the messages out, and you can get involved. They always need help, and I think it's an important thing. I don't think it's anything to be scared of. I think that's the biggest problem is people they're scared of it because they just don't understand it. But if you're a conservative grassroots type person, great.
And I want to say this also. I know we're getting close to being done here, but that they talk about the runaway convention. No, we're not going to have a runaway convention, but we do have a runaway Congress. So
That's true.
that's something people need to remember.
That's true.
I mean,
That ran away a long time ago.
what do we have to lose by calling? Yep, they've been running for years.
Because it's getting worse. It's getting worse.
And
it's going to get worse.
And it's getting worse. Yep. I mean, and you even look the people that's in power, that like we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and we can't get anything passed to help better our country. That just shows you how bad it's got in Congress.
Yep.
Too much money. They throw money at them. It's about the big corporations and the lobbyists. That's why Northwest Arkansas is so screwed up. The Republican parties, and I'm going to say that out loud, in Northwest Arkansas are screwed up because there's so much corporate money up there. And then you got a university. Wherever you have a university, so it's going to be a liberal type town. So that's holding back. We have. You notice Northwest Arkansas started is very purple, to be honest, and it was red. It was the first area to go red in the state, and now it's kind of coming back because I'm not going to make any bones about Walmart, Tyson, those folks. They're all liberal corporations. They're liberal corporations, and I go all the time. I hate to say it, but they're ruled by liberal. Correct speech and all that, you can tell. But anyway, hey, Jamie,
Well,
it's been
well,
great.
look at Tyson.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say, look at Tyson during COVID. They either told people take the jab or you're fired. I mean, you know, by the mandate of a liberal president. I mean, that just shows you how that proves your point.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you on again, and I'm gonna be talking to you about all this, keeping up with you. We'll be keeping up with you. Do you ever need to come on any kind of
Yes, sir.
anything, get up to 30 or something, you know, some miraculous thing happens where, hey, we're jumping up, getting near this thing, we're gonna get on board with that, you know.
Well, we did pass one more state this year. We are up to 20 now. We were at 19. I think the last time I was on here, we are at 20 now. So we're more than halfway there. So just
how many do we need exactly?
To all your friends, family members, 34 to call the convention. So we're 14 away.
Right.
And we're close to getting another one, aren't we? Which one was that? Ohio?
There's a possibility by the end of legislative sessions this year, we could be at 22. There's a possibility we could be at 22.
That'd be great. But hey, appreciate having you on. This is one of my big pet supporting things here is COS. I just think it's really important. You're not going to get term limits for the federal legislation. It's not going to happen with that. They're not going to do it to themselves.
No, they're not going. They're not going to regulate themselves. That's for sure.
Yeah. So they may say they are, but they always come up with some excuse. But been great having you, and come back and see us sometime. And we got his information out. Hey, everybody, check out COS Convention of State, and I think you can. It'd be nice to watch Surge Day. Art Meckler he has a great presentation.
It's actually we live streamed it on our Facebook that day, so it's on our Facebook page, so you can go on there and watch it.
It's very good.
I'll put the link in there in the bio on this.
Okay.
All right, Jamie. Have a great night. We'll talk at you later, okay, bud?
All right, thank you, bud, and you have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Sling County is now going to be out.